Welcome to the Masculinities Group Dialogue, where the Cal Poly men and masculinity staff come together to discuss topics of healthy masculinities, upcoming events that we have planned, and also to discuss just the program as a whole. My name is Adian, and I am the intern for the Men and Masculinities program.
My name is Christian Ayala, pronouns he, him, his, and I am the student assistant focusing on the Men of Color Success Initiative.
Hey y'all, I'm B, my pronouns are they and them, and I am also a student assistant for the Men and Masculinities program.
Hey, what's up, y'all? My name is Nick Billich. I am the coordinator of the Men and Masculinities program, and my pronouns are he, him, and his.
For our first dialogue, we are talking about this year's theme, which is Masculinities and Color, illustrating the intersection of masculinities, race, and ethnicity. And we want to take a look at how this theme personally impacts how our work is changed here at M&M this year. And with that in mind, our first question for our staff is, why do you consider M&M's theme of masculinities and color to be an important focus of this year? I want to hand it off to Nick to start us off.
Yeah, I think the theme really came from seeing or asking the question where does the Men and Masculinities program fit within the scope or all the needs that we're seeing on campus. And a lot of the work that we did last year was looking at what are the kind of the communities, the populations, the groups of students that have identities that connect with our program, and who are in greatest need, or how could our work be the most impactful to contribute to a diverse and inclusive and a campus where we have a deep sense of belonging. And one of the needs that came up was looking at graduation retention rates and seeing that men of color are experiencing higher gaps in retention and graduation, or when it comes to retention and graduation, than other kind of subgroups of students on campus. So that was like, okay, I think we can really, highlight like this theme of how are we elevating the discussion, the realities, the experiences of men of color. But also just within the past 6 months, when we're looking at like all the racial injustice that's happening in our country, but then also just we are on a predominantly white campus, and with that comes or can often come with a dimming or a marginalizing of non-white identities, but also the unawareness of what it means to be white. And so when we're thinking about masculinities and color, the intersections of race, ethnicity, and masculinities, it's really like how are we talking about and elevating and centering men of color, but also talking about the intersections and the realities of like race and ethnicity and masculinities, acknowledging that whiteness is also a racialized category. So I think there's just a lot of pertinent topics in that theme that really land for our time and place right now.
I think echoing a lot of that, it's also that a lot of times when we're focusing on like toxic masculinity and on like how like patriarchy informs our actions, a lot of times there's very much like a focus on like white masculinity, and where masculinity is like masculine folks of color, like those narratives get kind of pushed to the side and don't get nearly as like focused on or analyzed. And so I think for this year in particular, like building that and having those resources and really focusing on that brings a new lens that's less explored to the table.
Yeah, and piggybacking off what B was just mentioned right now, as men of color and having this theme of masculinities of color, it just plays out a role where we are able to like let these students like identify with was happening, what events we were putting on, and basically help them relate with one another, and have these spaces, these events that support them through their time here at Cal Poly. But at the same time, for or white like students, is that they're still able to come to these events and learn more about these like different races and colors, what they gone through, so they can better understand men of color, and this puts us all together as one, because they might be experiencing similar like traits, similar things. So I think that's the focus for this year. It's a good push, like Nick said too earlier, with like all the things happening nationally, world throughout the world. It just kind of puts this focus on this lens, that we need to be cognizant of and kind of give space to.
Yeah, a lot about what everybody's been saying here, especially circling back to what Nick said earlier about including whiteness as a part of the spectrum of racial identities instead of a lot of people think of it as the standard or centralized idea of masculine identities. And this theme really helps to reincorporate it into that spectrum, but also helps to decentralize it as a thought process because now we're expanding and we're diversifying or making more inclusive of these understandings of masculinities that we have, especially on campus, where the majority of the individuals are white. So it's really hard to get that diversity. But beyond that, I hope that this theme this year, it's incredibly important given everything that's going on sociopolitically, economically, and with the upcoming election. It's very important to focus on other individuals who may have been marginalized or who have been suppressed or even just not even considered by a lot of the population. And this theme can also help break down that black white dichotomy that kind of exists and kind of incorporates other voices that have been a little bit suppressed or marginalized in the conversation of masculinity. And hopefully this theme this year will help to reshape the psychosocial processes and thoughts that go into what it means to be a man or what it means to be identifying as masculine. So for our next question, we have, how do you incorporate your own identities and or interactions with masculinities into working with this year's theme? I'd like to pass it off to Christian to start.
So coming in this year, men of color, as a first generation, as low income, I'm working on the Moxie program. So it's kind of built upon the grounds of building retention rates and graduation rates for men of color. And I feel, on this campus, being predominantly white, it's kind of helped me bring my experiences and my kind of thoughts of what we as men of color need on this campus and building it to be something that can be versatile to everyone. So predominantly, yes, it's going to be for men of color, but we are still there as a resource for our students, for faculty, to be there and support. But as I've gone through college, there's a lot of things that I've gone through personally, and I kind of want to leave something like, so I don't want our students in the future to basically reinvent the wheel. I want stuff like concrete stuff so they can have these resources, support systems in place for them to prosper, for them to become what they want to be.
I think for me, like, being like outside of the gender binary, but having grown up like very much socialized as like a girl, I've been on like kind of the receiving end of a lot of like toxic displays of masculinity. And so it's interesting to bring that lens to this work and be doing that while also recognizing that I am not like, I don't have those same experiences. So it's been really interesting to kind of navigate that and see what I can bring to the table to um, like help create resources, help navigate like those discussions, while also making sure people are inclusive of identities that don't fit within the gender binary, within the cishet like normative experience. So I think for me, it's really been just like a lot of making sure that I'm covering all the bases that I need to in the discussions that we have, in the work that we do, and bringing new perspectives to the table, and really making sure that we have as many voices as possible in all of the spaces that we hold, so that it's not just one narrative over and over and over. And I really like doing that with a theme for this year as well.
Yeah. Dang, B, that totally reminded. I don't know if I shared this story with you all. So like my, the identities that I hold, white, cisgender, heterosexual man, Protestant, middle class. I mean, just like I think as all those have kind of taken shape, and understanding around those over the past couple of years, sometimes I get to this point where I'm like, wow, I need to like, why am I the one who's involved in this work, and like, and like I question my capacity to make good decisions. And I'll never forget, I don't know, do y'all remember Austin, from the GC? Like, oh my gosh, they're incredible. And I'll never forget a conversation we had, I think it was like 2.5 years ago, where they cruised in the office, and because a group of the GC students had seen a flyer for an event that we did. It was called the Pen 15 Club. It's now past the mic, but this is a story of how that shifted. And Austin was basically like, so this is not trans inclusive, and like, here's all the reasons why you're alienating folks in this marketing and the way that this event was created. And I just sat there, I was like, wow, like I have a huge blind spot in this area. And cards on the table, it was like, I got defensive, and inside I was wrestling with this, like, well, wait, we've like worked through this program and developed this. And then finally I was just like, you know what, this is the feedback that we needed to do the work that we needed to do. And so I think for me, especially like whiteness and heterosexism, I think has really, I think I've had to acknowledge how that's framed my approach to this work, and a lot of how I've thought about it. And so I think for me, the journey has very much been trying to think, and to think outside, to connect with, and to try as much as I can, to make the creation of things collaborative, knowing that I don't have all the answers or the perspective. So I think it's been a humbling process, but a really incredible and life-giving one for me.
I mean, I share a lot of identities with Nick. I'm also white. I'm also male, cisgendered, and all these other factors that would make it hard for me to do this kind of work. But I think what's really important about this theme this year is that it's about encouraging learning. It's about encouraging other people to take a look at different ideas and the different thoughts and processes that go into the creation of masculinities, not from their own racial perspectives, but other people's racial and ethnic and cultural perspectives. And it really formulates this giant form of learning for everyone. And I think the whole point of this theme this year is creating appreciation and understanding of one another through dialogues, through events, through discussions, through programming, through all of these things that help to break down a lot of these barriers that individuals feel towards other groups. And especially as an individual who's white, I understand that a lot of other white identifying individuals have certain prejudices, either built in or unconscious, that are directing the way they interact with other people. And for me, this theme offers just this great opportunity to help kind of take down some of those prejudices, or help people reanalyze some of those prejudices that they have. So that's why I think, or where I think I fit into this theme this year. For our final question, we have, what do you hope to achieve through M&M this year? I'd love for B to kick it off.
I really want to see a community come together. I think, especially with everything being online and we don't have like the physical space of M&M, I think a lot of folks, and not even just M&M, like we don't have the campus. A lot of people are living at home and not like with roommates anymore. Um, I think a lot of people are really missing that like feeling of community and that like ability to really meet new people and create meaningful connections. And so I'm really hoping that M&M will be a space for those connections to still happen, even if it is in a virtual way. Um, and I think I'm also really excited for, like, as Adian mentioned, for it to be a learning space as well. So not just a space for finding friends and like community, but also for personal growth and for um, bringing that growth to the extended community that may not be directly involved with M&M. So I am very excited about that. And I am also very excited for Manifest in spring, and for that to be awesome. So I think that's what I'm hoping to achieve. Just a really solid community and support and growth and an awesome manifest.
I think I'm right there with you, B. Definitely increasing that engagement, that creation of community between M&M, between Cal Poly, I mean, even beyond just those two communities, even to like the larger San Luis Obispo, even to the larger country, just anything that creates these conversations around masculinity and gives people a sense of belonging and a place to communicate, learn, and engage with material that is meaningful. Because I do believe that almost all the work we're putting out there, all the services, everything we're doing has meaning and it has direction and it has a purpose. And I think people can definitely benefit from engaging with the materials we're putting out there. But of course, the virtual format does provide a lot of challenges, and we're trying to work through that and work with it to still reach people. I mean, a lot of people are sort of getting a little tired of looking at their computer screens, but no, that's still a way to engage with people. It may feel less personal, but we can work together to make it personal. So that's where I stand on what I'm hoping to achieve this year.
So for me, what I'm hoping for, when I came to Cal Poly, so I'm pretty local, 20 minutes away, but the shift was something different, from Santa Maria to San Luis Obispo. And when I came here, I was kind of by myself, alone, and I was introduced to cross-cultural centers, which is now the Students in Diversity and Belonging. But these centers and these programs, like the Men and Masculinity program, were there for me since the beginning. Were there to help me and support me, teach me a lot of things that I didn't know. So I did have to break down a lot of things when I came here, because coming from Santa Maria, there's these like kind of stereotypes and mindsets that you grow up with that I didn't even know were out, like were things that affected me, that affected other people. I thought we were just like this bubble, but through these centers and programs that we have, I want to be a resource for students. I want to be a safe space for students to come and feel supported and feel like they're cared about. I want them, like the saying says, I want them not just to survive but thrive on our campus and outside, once they graduate and go into the world, for that we can make an equitable society and we can make a change. So I want to give them these resources. I want to be there to support them throughout the way, and I want to be the change that I want to see in this world.
And this is inspiring, hearing everybody talk to their goals. Yeah, for me, so it's interesting kind of seeing a generational perspective on all the teams that have like every year invested in growing the Men and Masculinities program. And so I think that like that phrase of leaving it at a better point where you found it is a hope I have. And you know, like I know like this continues for me in a lot of ways, and in different ways than our student staff. But I think I want to look back at the end of spring quarter and just be like, wow, we really, like, not only did we do some incredible work, we, you know, the program is in like a better, healthier, you know, stronger, more impactful place than it was in fall quarter. But also that we, uh, I don't know if fun is like the word, but that, you know, we look, you know, our staff and then our community look back at that experience, and it was something that had impact, that brought meaning, that was life-giving, that like the work contributed to like the vitality of people, that it helped them grow, it helped bring connection, it helped deconstruct and push back on oppression and things that are hurting us individually and corporately, and then helped create things in relationships and resources and that are helping people thrive. So that's some hopes that I have.
Well, that concludes our first Masculinities group dialogue. We'd like to thank you for watching, and we hope you enjoyed it or at least found it interesting. You can follow us on Instagram or Facebook, or you can subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay up to date on our latest programs and events that we have coming up. Thank you.